Good afternoon, everybody. This is James T. And I got my man Blake Proctor with me, guys. Hey, listen, we had a blast today earlier. I was helping out one of my colleagues, and I was able to do her class, Recovery 201, where we go deeper. You know, it's a pleasure of mine to do so because I think like that anyway. It's always a pleasure for me to find ways to go deeper into extracting our tools for recovery. And we use all the tools. It doesn't matter, we evolve in our scholarship on a scholarly level. That's how we evolve. So I brought Blake on. Blake's my man. He's got a lot of insights and a whole lot and some good time being clean in his recovery, and his ideas with being fresh. Ideas on thought processes is what helps us recover and what helps us bounce back. So I'm gonna pass it along real quick to announce my man Blake. Blake, tell me a little bit about yourself, buddy.
What's going on, everybody? Blake Proctor here. Just native. I'm just a regular guy from Charlotte. Native of the area and stuff, and just a guy fighting for recovery. And fighting for change, and that hope of knowing that recovery can make a difference if you let it. So
cool. So before we go into any lessons, I'm gonna hit you with that warm line, guys. Listen, don't be afraid to pick up that phone call. We got 24/7 people and staffing waiting to answer the phone call if you're struggling in any kind of way. Listen, don't. This is serious. Any kind of way. You just want someone to hear you. You'd be surprised just allowing someone to hold space in that moment for what you're going through, what we're going through at times can help us get through. So we want to, always celebrate the warm line. And then there's our welcome desk. We got a wonderful young lady by the name of Kimberly Porter who answers that phone, welcomes you, gives you direction with Promise Resource Network, what we're out here trying to do and what we're out here with our goals to achieve higher forms of recovery. And I say that higher forms of recovery by saying that recovery is in everybody, and in every way we accept all the tools of recovery. There's no traditional versus new age. We want all ways of recovery to help people. Blake, I'm gonna hand it over to you, man. Let's talk about bounce back. How can we bounce back? We had COVID. We got a little leeway. We went out, played, shot basketball, went to the movies a couple of times. Now they tripping again. We got a few numbers here and there swinging around. But what is it? What's the daily best way or times, the things that you use as tools to help you recover? And how do we bounce back?
Man, I'm gonna have to give that to obviously your downtime and building a new routine. You know what I mean? Building new repetitive actions so when you get caught in a situation where you're acting out of character, you can bounce back into your routine of things that you've built, things that you've normally, wouldn't have done, you won't do again. So, and reflection, always take the time to at some point during the day reflect on your actions and stuff. Don't just throw it in a trash can and forget about it because it was a mistake or a bad thing that happened. Always take a chance to reflect so you won't do it again. So
give us an example for those who are listening about what daily. We're talking about, like, I'm at lunchtime at my job. Lunchtime, I go out in my car, whatever, you smoke cigarettes, or listen to audio books, whatever. What's a good way to do some little quick 2-3 minute reflections?
Something I do, and this is something I do every single morning. I used to never even think about doing this type of stuff, but in the morning times, I spend about 20, 30 minutes, not even that sometimes. Sometimes it's a quick 5 minutes, but I have my readings and then I have my meditation in the morning. and it kind of sets me up for the whole day, you know. And so I read, you know, 86 through 88 in my AA book. I have a small meditation of reflection, like you were just saying. I just think about my day and how do I really want to handle it, no matter what happens. What mindset do I want to stay in, you know? And then of course I have my prayer, and then I have my fear prayer that I read from the AA book as well. So you know, I always think it's big, you know. And then what that does is, you know, if I get in a situation at any point in time during the day, you know, you always remember things that you say, you know what I mean? Sometimes when you're in the action of going through something, you kind of remember all the other times that it was either said or having done it. So, you know, by setting yourself up in the morning, I do at least with this prayer and this meditation, when things break down, my mind immediately goes back to my prayer or my meditation or what I was saying in the morning time about keeping, you know, my cool through everything, no matter what. And it kind of readjusts me, you know, it brings me back to that moment of clarity where I'm like, oh, this is no big deal. You know what I mean? I've been through this before, you know. So I think routine is everything. So.
In your recovery, brother, what has impacted you the most, that guided you towards every single day? Like, was it a slide where you might have been falling down? Was it something that happened in your life? The reason I'm alluding to these things is because earlier today we talked about step 4. I want to get into that just a little bit and how important it is, that step 4 being making amends, and how it frees us from, you know, judgment on ourselves and frees us in certain ways in the space in our mind, our heart. Is there something that, you know, I guess the question is there something that got you to the understanding of how important that is? Because the reason I brought this up yesterday when we talked, that's how important it was, because I know it helped me. Is there any story or anything that you can tell us that where you got it, you know?
Yeah,
bouncing back might have been related to making amends with people.
Yeah, honestly, man, that rings a bell right off the gate, you know. And about 4 months into my recovery, you know, I wasn't doing anything. I was doing the same old thing, you know, just what they call it, a dry drunk, or, you know, stuff like that. I wasn't working any type of program. I was just forcing myself to stay clean. And I'll never forget it. I was still doing the same things on a physical level when I was sober that I was doing that was dysfunctional, you know, when I was using and stuff. So really, it wasn't that I was doing anything different. I just wasn't using, but I was still the same screwed up person that I always was. And I'll never forget, one of the big things I always say this is surround yourself with good people, you know, put yourself in an environment to succeed, you know. And, you know, I was in one of those environments when it broke down. I had a roommate who was really, I mean, he straight called me out one day. This whole like recovery thing for me really started with an argument. And I'll never forget my old roommate, John C. This guy used to always preach to me sometimes, but there was one thing I was doing in particular where I wasn't trusting individuals, and he called me out one night and was almost yelling at me. And I'll never forget, kind of my eyebrow kind of raised at the end of it, and I was like, holy crap, man, I've been doing the same thing for 5 months, 4 months, man. I hadn't changed a bit. And that's kind of what started it, you know, being surrounded with people that genuinely want other people to do better. And that's hard to find in this world. It really, even in recovery, you know, it can be hard to find genuine people that want good for other people. You know, because sometimes in recovery we can get a little selfish sometimes. But yeah, man, make sure you're in a good, I would say start out with a good environment, you know. And,
you remember last night the conversation that we had about people who, without knowing, pray for your downfall. Remember that conversation we had?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When people begin to see, guys, there's people out there who begin to see some success from you. They're going to see you conquer some of the things that you didn't conquer before. They're going to see you be able to get past thought processes and actions that you couldn't do before. They're going to see, in essence, you escalating in certain ways, you graduating in certain ways. And I had mentioned to Blake, I said, listen, without them knowing that they're doing it, their vibration, their energy changes. And they may be faced with fear. We talked about fear earlier. And the fear could be fear of somebody's getting something I didn't get, or I'm the same as them, or I did this before too. I deserve a break. I deserve a higher paying job. I deserve that. So I think some of this recovery stuff that we do, also we can't block out the fact of us maturing and giving our own selves a hand, because the person that used to be is not there anymore. The new version of me is the me that sees that thing I just told you. I couldn't see that before. Now I see that, they're just fearful. They're just expressing it that way. It's not that they're jealous. They're just fearful. So what do you think about some of these thought processes?
Something that just came to my mind right now. We're the type of people, we want, you know what I mean? And we want it right now, and we don't want to have to wait for anything. And obviously we don't want to have the pressure of going through stuff. We just want things to be easy. And I think, when we're in recovery and we're surrounded with good people, and we all have good, because we all want recovery at the end of the day. That's why we're there, and then we start seeing people do really well. And we're like, oh God, why is that happening for them? I'm here too. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And we don't know what that person's going through in their mind, what they've already been through, what they've conquered and what they haven't conquered. We just see them getting through it, you know what I mean, and attaining whatever it is that they're going after. And we can't understand why, it's not happening for me, in an instance, you know what I mean? And we don't ever see the hard work that's put into stuff. We just see the reception of it, and what people are enjoying in their life. And it's like, that person could have probably been through hell and back to come, to that conclusion, or to get, that reward and stuff like that. And I think it's always, for me, I always need to be aware that, there are things that happen in this world that I don't see, and that's the reason why they're happening. So, just always try and, give people their credit, you know what I mean? Things aren't just necessarily lucky. People really do put in the work for things. And we were talking earlier about, that's just their life. That's their journey. That's a part of their story. Our story is different. What it'll take for me to attain that, I have to learn this, and this. Well, for them to attain it, they had to learn something else, because they already knew what we didn't know probably. So, there are steps to everything. And I truly believe that just because I'm good in one area of wanting recovery doesn't mean I'm good in another area that's on recovery level. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So.
One of my goals is every day to add another notch, another string, and to make a string of good decisions. What's the next right decision? Then what's the next right decision for my personal life, for my life with my related to my coworkers? If we can string enough good decisions, enough put together, in a row, I think we build what we call a momentum for change. That momentum is identical in my mind to rolling a snowball back home in Chicago. And if you keep on doing it, you got the base of a snowman. Then you do another one and another one. But the momentum it builds, even if you stop rolling, even if you stop rolling snowball, it's built enough momentum that now it's this big. Now, even when snowflakes are attached to it, it's going to get bigger. You can stop physically doing some of the things you're doing, but metaphysically in the energy, it's still moving, is what I'm trying to get at. You talked earlier about stopping things that you were doing, but not really hadn't changed much. You were just not drinking, you were just not using. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is the test comes, and sometimes when the test comes, we fall, and it's because we may have frozen our space. But the vibration of what's coming has to stop. I mean, that snowball, we're still rolling and still rolling and still rolling. Metaphysically, we're still rolling. It's going to manifest into the mundane world, which is what we can see, taste, touch, and smell. I said all that to say that me personally, I like to, put together all this energy, the thought processes and my desire, the man I intend on becoming. I like to write it down. I like to say, this is the man I intend on becoming. I like to pull the possibilities of different string alongs, different decisions related to that every single day, to make me better. I'm the captain of making me better. Like, I don't believe nothing's coming to save me. I believe I am in charge of this. I'm the champion of this. I make sure that you can resonate with some of it.
Yeah, definitely. If there's one thing I know, man, is what you said, doing the next right thing. That used to be like my anthem early in recovery. I used to use that all the time. Because it's true, no matter what happens, and it's hard to reset after each decision. You know what I mean? Like when I go from one thing to the next, it's hard for me to say, all right, just do the next right thing and then do the next. It really is hard. But like you were just saying right there, when I do it for long periods of time, like, if I can strong-willed, each and every day, just trying to be the best me that I can be, it becomes repetitive. It becomes a part of my subconscious. I don't even know, you know what I mean? I'm doing some of these things, but I built up that, that momentum,
Yes.
that it just kind of carries me on. And, that's the thing, man, with recovery. Like, I was going through an instance the other day, and I've got a year and 4 months clean, right? And then it was about 2 weeks ago, I hit a wall, and it was a situation where I didn't even realize I had gotten out of my routine. I had stopped doing my readings in the morning. I had quit going to the gym. And it all started with like one thing that I stopped, and then it just was like a domino effect, and I didn't even realize it. And before it was too late, I'm 2 weeks into this downfall, and I don't know what's happening, why all this stuff is happening. I'm beginning not to trust people again. I'm distancing myself. I'm shutting down. And it all started with one thing. So I think the power of one decision is much more than one decision. You know what I mean? Because and I've noticed, man, if I say no to something, that's going to lead really no or yes, whether it's bad or good. I need to understand the power of one decision, and the domino effect it can create sometimes is unbelievable.
I agree. I mean, but here's what you're saying too. Listen to what Cedric said. My man Cedric, he chatted in. He said, "I am the CEO of my life. Decisions that I make. We are all given the opportunity to make the choice to be better and to do better for self. It's a choice. Now, the voluntary act of selecting that which is preferred." Let me say that again. The voluntary act of selecting that which is preferred. That's a choice. Getting out of bed, me going to my 90-day calendar and checking off, I did this for my personal life, I did this for my financial or my business life, I did this for my spiritual life. I mean, it's a choice. And sometimes we're faced with choices and we don't even really want to make a choice. We just want to, the choice is to lay in the bed. How about that? That's the choice, to do nothing. So, I really appreciate you, Cedric, as well. I appreciate you commenting on that, man. I mean, what are some other things that come to thought about your journey in recovery that you were passionate about, that you knew that you have to do to maintain yourself?
Hmm. I want to say, always put myself in a situation like I was saying earlier, where I'm around, good people. You'll always hear an addict or an alcoholic say, "You got to go to meetings. You got to go to the meetings. You got to have a sponsor." And the reason I believe, in my opinion, for that is because of the different perspectives and personalities that you put yourself around. You don't give yourself enough time to go back into, that old way of thinking. You know what I mean? You're so busy trying to do whatever it is that you're doing at that moment in time, and that's being proactive, like at a meeting or with your sponsor and stuff like that. And it's like this old thing I saw one time. It's called Rat Park. I don't know, it was on YouTube or something. And they took a rat and they put him in a cage, and they gave him 2 water bottles. One had drugs in it and one was just a water bottle. And he kept going back to the one that had the drugs in it and stuff. And then they took that same rat and they put him in another cage with all these toys and all these other rats and stuff like that. And they put those 2 same water bottles in there. And it was an incredible documentary. And these things, that rat never went back to that drug-filled water. He was too busy playing with the other rats, playing with the toys, and was going and getting the regular water. So it was really interesting. I thought it was a really cool documentary. But
that is interesting, because he had a social life. He
exactly.
had a thought life about doing different things and making different. Well, rats can make choices, right? So that's an amazing documentary. That's amazing. And
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, real quick, most addicts and alcoholics that I've met, like myself, we're all very lonely. You know what I mean? And we just want to be heard, and we want to have something to do. And we're like the kids at school that feel left out during the games and stuff like that. So I've always thought it was interesting. Basically, we're introverts, kind of. Not all of us, but it's. I found that a lot of us are lonely, and we don't have many friends, and we don't really feel like we have anything to do. And that's where these meetings and having a sponsor and building that network, at the meetings and stuff kind of kicks in. We start getting back to doing regular day activities and stuff, but with other sober individuals. And it kind of keeps us out of that depressive mind state. You know what I mean? So
yeah, going back to some of the things that when we did our little clip of topics that we were going to talk about today. Yesterday after having that conversation with you, and even earlier today, man, it really resonates with my heart and my mind. The real power in those steps, the real power in that making amends, and how making amends gave me power and freed me. It sort of freed me from. I jumped for joy because it sort of freed me from the prison of myself, because you're embarrassed to go. You're embarrassed to say. You rather just drive by or wave and have that face, but you harm that person. And just want to flank back into that before we end. Can you talk more about how it felt to be empowered, or what you felt when you knew that when you were in a good place and you felt good about step 4?
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of, that's an interesting one, because I've been a shy person my whole life, and I've never been as proactive in being social as I am right now, as I've been in recovery, that I was even when I was using alcohol and drugs. So I think when people know when I air out what I've done and the things, like to a sponsor, and we talked about this earlier, when I become okay with the things that I've done, and I become okay that people know what I've done, I don't know what it is, man. It just, you feel like you've come out of a shadow. You know, you shed light, I think, on who you are as a person. And, you know, when you see that nobody really, it's not that people don't care, but, you know, my sponsor used to say, you know, Blake, you're not the most important person in the room. You know what I mean? Because every time I used to walk into a room, I was like, oh God, what are they thinking about me? Am I doing the right thing? And my sponsor looked at me and goes, Blake, no one cares. I started laughing. Now they do to an extent because they want us all to do good, and we all want to learn something in these meetings. But to the extent that I think people are talking about me or watching me or overanalyzing the situation, that's what I do as an alcoholic and addict. You know, it doesn't need to go that far. You know what I mean? And, you know, I used to always beat myself up if I thought I was being stupid. And then the person's like, no, we didn't even notice what you're all bent out of shape because you thought this, and we weren't even thinking that. So I have a tendency, and I wonder, and I'm assuming some people do too, to overanalyze certain situations like that.
Yeah. I can see bondage being overanalyzed, and I've been as well. I think when we talk about step 4, even further, and making amends with people in your past, I think that metaphysically the freedom comes. I think metaphysically and emotionally and mentally, your emotional intelligence, I think, has a space to move. I think that you feel honorable by the act. I think you can feel honorable, and then you can go forward, continuing to put those steps together. The last time we talked, a couple hours ago, we talked about this when I said, hey, you know, I remember personally the first person received my forgiveness, or he received my plea to, you know, hey, I'm sorry for what I did in the past. The second person did. The third person did. I'm flying high. I'm on a roll. And then that fourth person, they want to see me coming. And I had to learn to accept that without crashing and burning. I had to be okay with knowing that they are perfectly within their right to feel how they feel. Because the truth is, Blake, everybody's perfect for where they are for their own mental, emotional, physical recovery. Wherever you are right now, guys, you are perfect in the right space to just accept and offer yourself that power. Blake, when we get out of here, what do you got to say about those things I just said?
You know, whenever I was going into these amends, you know, I sit there and I'm the first one talking to them, and it takes me like 5-10 minutes, right? And I'm saying all the things that I can remember that I've done, and some of the things that I thought were the worst things in the world. And then, you know, during those amends, then it's their turn to speak. And then they're speaking, and they're not speaking really about anything that I'm thinking I did wrong. It was the stuff I forgot that really took me off kilter a little bit, because it was stuff I didn't think I was doing that was wrong. You know what I mean? And so I'll sit there and I'll talk for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then they kind of look back at me, and they go down this tangent of like, you know, 30 minutes. And it's like, it's all about stuff that I took for granted, stuff that I didn't think was a problem. And then the stuff that I did apologize for, I overanalyzed it too. So, you know, it's always good during the amends process to make sure that they get a chance to speak, because that perspective that they saw isn't necessarily the same one that you have going into that conversation.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yeah. I agree, man. Thank you so much for that, man. You know, you made some great, powerful statements earlier. I want to thank you once again for the journey for today, for you helping me out today and just sharing, you know, your recovery processes and the challenges that we face. And these are all, guys, ways that we bounce back. You know, we talk about, you know, making amends and the strength and power in that. We're talking about you know, just, you know, using your time wisely so that you can reset your day and manifest something greater. We talked about being in the car for a lunch break and you know, putting together the next right step and the next right step. We talked earlier today about, that there's no wrong move, there's no failure, because the failure is just that one thing that show you need to go another direction. You just learn that thing that you did right there at that moment was not right for that space. So, man, I appreciate you. Why don't you, just say, if you got anything left to say to take us home, take us on out of here.
Yeah, I think my camera went down. I'm not sure, but can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, okay. What I wanted to say, is, every day is not going to be the same. I've come to, when I do my readings in the morning, I always can try and plan out my day, and I can always try and foresee things that are going to happen. And then next thing you know, it ends up not going anything like, I meditated or prayed for it to be. And the thing is always be able to reset, never really let anything, take you out of yourself, always try and remember who you are, what you're trying to do and what you're trying to become. And, whenever I remember that, I don't let these bad things that happen to me, or really the things that I've done in the past, take me down this rabbit hole of even more bad decisions, or take me off of my, take me out of myself, and you do that, like we talked about in the beginning, was, finding a good routine of things that are healthy and easy for you to do. And, you'll find that whether it's, like you were talking about, working out, playing basketball, or it's as simple as hanging out with a friend like we're doing right now and just being able to talk and stuff, it really kind of centers you into who you really are, who you want to be. So
I appreciate that, man. And listen, finally, I want to say, even in these relationships, guys, so it seems like sometimes we're being kicked out of a relationship. Sometimes it seems like, we just got to remember that, rejection is God's protection. You may wake up years later and realize, if you were still in the gulf of that situation, you would be going crazy. So let's be thankful for, the space that we're in, what we have to offer humanity, our friendships and family. I appreciate it. Hey, thank you for Blake for showing up. Don't forget, guys, the warm line. Don't forget, guys, the welcome line and welcome desk. And we'll see you next time on the bounce back, how to bounce back in your recovery. See you later, Blake.
all right, guys, take it easy.